So a question people always ask, especially when offshore fishing, is, okay, so I'm trying to do my spool and I've got different levels of line. How do I take my braided backing and connect it with my monofilament? And that is why we're here with the magician himself, Mr. Doug Gray of Killer Bee Customs. He makes all of our custom rods on Speechless, and we're gonna look at that right now. So Doug, first, let's talk about when we look at spooling up one of these big offshore reels, whether it's a 50 or a larger class, you've got different levels of line, I guess. So break those down just for the listener in case they're not familiar with it.
Sure. We'll start with an empty spool.
Okay.
Because we're adding braided backing, and it's going to be a quite substantial amount of line, I like to cushion the spool with monofilament first.
Okay.
Say on a 50 class reel, I'll put 50 yards of 60 pound on there.
Okay, so step one is we got 50 yards of mono as our first line that's connected to the actual reel.
That's correct. And one reason for that is it's easier to make that connection with the monofilament on the spool where it won't slip on the spool. Frequently people have used braid right to the spool and
that can slip.
It can spin. You think your drag is bad on your reel because the whole ball of line is turning on the spool, whereas actually it's just not tight on the spool. Monofilament won't slip on the spool, for one thing. It gives you an easy way to connect your braided backing to the spool, and it also creates a cushion on the spool. The spools are aluminum, which is a fairly soft metal. What can happen over the course of a fight is if you get a lot of line off the spool, braided line off the spool, as you are retrieving that fish and getting it back, all that line's wet. So as it comes back on the spool, it's under extreme tension because you're fighting a fish.
Yeah.
As the line dries later, it will contract, and it has and can crush the aluminum spool.
Oh.
Then you're out of a reel.
Wow.
That's part of why we do it. One, an easy connection, so it won't slip on the spool, and two, we're protecting a quite substantial investment in a $500 to $1,300 reel.
Okay, so that's stage one.
That's stage one.
50 yards of mono.
Yep.
Okay. Then we've got our braided backing.
Now we're going to put backing on. So on a 50 class reel, I'll use 80 pound backing. And I can usually get 450, 500 yards of braid backing on there.
Okay.
One of the things with backing is it gives you quite a bit more line than you would be able to get on there with just monofilament from spool to top. After the braid backing, we're going to put a mono top shot.
So phase 3 is a mono top shot. That's a phrase that is, people say top shot at first. I'm like, what the heck is top shot?
Yeah.
So that top shot, just to be clear, is the line that's between your braided backing and your leader itself.
That's correct.
And this is where we're going to have the majority of the tension of the fight, correct?
That's most of your working line in most cases. Now, if you get a really big fish, he pulls into your backing, then that's one reason for the backing. Another reason that we use the backing in a mono top shot is, first of all, the braid backing is a little bit more expensive than your mono. However, it's going to save you money in the long run. You put 500 yards of braid backing on your reel, and then you use a 200, 250, or 300 yard top shot. When you need to change that line, that monofilament, you're only putting on 200 or 300 yards of line. Yep. You're not going through the expense of spooling the entire reel.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. And so the total amount of top shot in terms of length of that is?
Typically, on a 50 wide, I'll get somewhere between 250 and 350 yards.
250, 350 yards. So we start off with 50 of mono, then roughly 450, 500 of your braided backing, and then we had
mono on top,
which was
350, something like that.
350. So doing the math, we're up to somewhere around, 8 to 900.
Yeah, between 8 and 900 yards of line. Whereas if you just put straight 60-pound line on a 50 wide, you're only going to get 550, 575 yards of
That's a
line
big difference.
on there.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so then the question becomes, well, how do I connect my braided backing with that top shot? And that's what we want to look at right now.
Definitely. The knots that I like to use, it's a process. On my braid backing, I like to tie what's called a bimini twist, which the reason for a bimini twist is it creates a double line. A double line is good to connect to. When this knot is complete, it's fairly low profile. It will go through most guides without any problem at all.
Just something you got to think about.
Absolutely, because you got a fish
guide.
screaming line off there. You don't want to get hung up on your guides or your corners of your guides or your tip or anything.
Right, okay.
So this is a good knot for that. It creates a very strong connection, and again, it's low profile.
Okay, cool. And so for this, we're going to use some paracord, and you're just going to do this to visually show what this bimini twist would look like, and then we'll do it with regular braid afterwards.
Sure,
correct?
absolutely. Yeah, this is going to give you a representation of what's involved in tying this. Now, when you're doing it with your regular fighting line or your braid backing that's on your reel, we're going to do about 16 twists.
Okay.
Okay. This being as large diameter as it is, I don't think that would be possible.
Right.
So I'm only going to do about 6 twists on this, and then when we do this, it'll be easier to see on camera, and then I'll go back and do it with actual braid backing and do it correctly.
Okay, got it.
So we're going to double the line. I'm going to put my hand in here, and I'm going to make 6 twists. 3,
Normally would be 17,
4,
you said?
5, 6. Yes, normally I do 16 on braid. Okay, and some people will do up to 40 twists.
Wow.
This is how I was taught. I've not had knot failures with this.
Right.
So this is kind of what I stick with.
Okay.
This is going to go over my knee, and we're going to create some tension. And I'm going to pull these 2 lines apart, and we're going to tighten up those twists. And we get to a point where they get tight, I'm going to let off of my right hand, which is the tag end, and let this line roll back over itself
Oh, that's interesting.
by letting some tension off. And it's going to get to right there. Okay.
That's wild. So that's almost like doubled up now.
Doubled up right there. And
Just because you let back off and it rolled over itself.
roll back over itself. That's correct. Now, I'm going to pinch this.
Okay.
Just pinch this. And I'm going to make an overhand knot on this leg. Just a regular overhand knot.
Yep.
We're going to pull that up. And then we're going to do one on the second leg.
Okay.
Same thing. Just an overhand knot, just like that. We're going to pull that up like that. And that's basically all you need to do. That knot's not going to go anywhere. Now, to make it a little bit smoother, which is not going to appear that way with this such big line, but what we're going to do is on the other line, we're going to do kind of like a uni knot. We're going to come here and go up through 3 times on that. I just did 2 here, but this kind of cinches everything down and makes that knot a little bit smoother. Now, again, this is very large line.
So it's
just to give you a representation of how this knot works.
right.
Then that gives us a double line that we can attach our top shot to.
And what's the knot you would probably use for that with this double line?
I use an improved Bristol knot, which is a very smooth line. It slips effortlessly through your guides.
Yeah.
Very strong and holds up well.
Cool. So now we're gonna try it, I guess, with the regular braid.
Yep, let's do it with some 80-pound braid.
Yeah, 80-pound braid. All right, here we go.
Okay. Again, we're gonna double our line and hold it.
Okay.
And our thumb and forefinger. I'm gonna do 16 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, I'm going to place this over my knee just like I did with the big line. I'm going to grab my tag end, if I can find it. And again, I'm going to pull this down. I'll try to do it slowly so you can see how everything's twisting together and getting tight there. Now I'm going to hold that, just kind of put my finger on it, and I'm going to let tension off of this as I'm pulling.
And it walks itself.
I'm pulling with my left hand, still pulling away from my knee this way, and easing this off until it gets to where they come together.
That's so interesting.
Okay, and then again, we're going to just do an overhand knot here. Pull that up. And an overhand knot on this side.
Okay.
And pull that up. And then again, it's kind of like a unit knot that we're going to go over the both legs. So 1, 2, 3. Pull everything tight. I'm going to trim my tag in close. And there you have a bimini twist.
A bimini twist.
Bimini twist. This is also effective with mono. There's thousands of knots out there, but some people will actually do this with mono.
Yeah.
And their braid, and then they'll do a loop-to-loop connection. So you have your spool of mono with a bimini twist in it, and you'll run it through here 3 times and pull it tight. But I don't feel like that's as smooth a connection going through your guides as what I'm getting ready to show you, which is the improved Bristol.
Okay, all right, so let's look at the improved Bristol.
All right. We're going to take our mono top shot and our bimini twist. We're going to run the mono up through there, pull a little bit out, and I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to take the mono around both legs of the bimini twist 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to pinch that, okay, because we don't want that going anywhere, and we're going to go back down towards
our connection point.
Our connection point.
Yeah.
7 times. The same direction. 1, 2.
So it's like 7 up, 7 down.
Yep. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now, one trick is the trick here is you go through. You see how the monofilament's coming up through that way? When we go back through, we want to go the opposite direction.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're gonna pull on it a little bit to make sure both legs of our bimini twist are equal length. And I'm gonna pull only on the standing part, which is your running line. We're gonna leave the tag end alone.
All right.
And as I pull this down, everything's gonna start to twist together and tighten up. And when I get to a point, say about right there, as with any knot, you want to wet it before you cinch it down. Reduces friction. You don't have the heat build up on your line, and it won't weaken your line.
All right.
So we're going to wet this. Get a good strong grip on it, and then right here at this point, the last bit of it, you're going to pull kind of quickly and kind of snatch it.
Okay.
And it comes out just
Look how
like
clean
that.
this is, y'all. That is so clean. And that was called the improved.
It's called an improved Bristol.
Would you say the Bristol is like the most common?
I'm not sure. I mean, there's so many different knots out there. This was actually one I saw in a magazine.
Yeah.
Probably 12,
That's cool,
15 years ago.
It's really wild looking at how we did this. So we've got double line that you made originally with that bimini twist, and then we've got our mono, and you use that improved Bristol.
Yep.
And now we've got this set up. That was super cool. And you said for you, because you send rods, custom rods that you'll spool up all over the world. This is the way you do it.
That's correct.
And people don't complain.
They don't send them back.
Okay, that was cool. So, Magician Doug, we certainly appreciate you, and hopefully this was helpful to you, especially as you're trying to, set up your gear the right way. I know it's complicated, certainly complicated for me, Guys like this make it a lot easier. So, Doug, thanks for taking the time to show us this. And as always, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you subscribe. Come fishing with us offshore. Order some rods from this guy. Until the next time, everyone, stay salty.